the dominance theory is not a theory. It's like a hypothesis. It's a way to help people understand social relationships in dogs, which coincidentally is a topic that I researched for 10 years in Berkeley. And what we understand by this whole thing of, the dominance theory, the alpha dog, the beta dog, down to the omega dog or whatever, it's just so Mickey Mouse. It's not the way dogs are. I mean, I studied them for 10 years. Yes, they have hierarchies. Male dogs especially. I mean, male dogs are kind of simple souls. It's kind of like they want to know what's what. So if dogs grow up living together without human influence, then the male dogs will develop an absolutely linear hierarchy. And any other male puppy coming in comes in at the bottom, and he works his way up as the top dogs die off. And it's pretty much ruthless, that if you throw out a bone to 10 male dogs, you're throwing out Ken's bone. They don't argue. That's the whole point of the hierarchy, right? Why argue when we know it's the top dog's bone that we're throwing out? You take him out, throw out the bone to 9 dogs, and there's no argument, because the second dog knows it's his bone. So that's the purpose of having hierarchies. Well, now we bring in the females. It's kind of different. Yes, they have hierarchies, but they aren't quite so hard set as male dogs. And if we put males and females together, well, it's a whole new enchilada. It's like female dogs have these female amendments to male hierarchical law. And one of them is, I have it and you don't. That's huge. You can have a very low-ranking female dog easily keep a bone away from a top-ranking male. Easily. And then the second female amendment for hierarchical law, is you have it and I want it. You will see a fairly low, middle-ranking female dog see a middle-ranking male dog with a bone, and she'll just go up next to him and look at it and get closer and closer. And the male dogs, he's going, it's like, guys in a bar, like, don't you do that, you do that, really, and she just gets closer and closer till eventually he cracks and she's got the bone. So when you look at them living together, you don't get this rigid thing. We have friendships, we have allegiances, all sorts of things. So, for example, a lovely relationship with, my dogs, that Peggy was best friends with Ken. Well, Ken was the top dog. So you throw out a bone to the pack, Ken would get it, and then Peggy would go and share it with him. And this is something, by the way, that true top dogs are quite willing to do. They're quite willing to share their bones with other dogs. It's only middle-ranking dogs, which are, you can't share with me. Why? The middle-ranking dogs are the ones that growl, the ones that fight, the ones that snap. You see, and people misunderstand this. I meet people and say, yeah, well, I've got an alpha dog, and the dog's like, and I just laugh, thinking, you don't have an alpha dog, man. You have a middle-ranking, confused male dog. If you just count which dogs growl, you get a graph like this. Top dog, 0. He doesn't have to growl. Middle-ranking dogs, mostly males, down to the end. These dogs don't growl, they would be stupid too. So, number one, that the whole social structure, let's call it, rather than dominance theory, social structure is much more complicated than it would seem. However, this notion of, we use the dominance theory in training, I said, what are you talking about? I mean, this is a puppy you've got. What are you telling me you want to splat him for? Or silly things like, no, I have to go out through the door first, or he can't sleep on my bed. I just rang my wife. She's got 3 dogs on the bed right now. The dogs are all feeling poorly. What's the point of getting a dog if you don't want to share the dog's life with you? So what are all these rules about? Rules are good, okay? But I always teach owners, it's owner rules. You are the dog's guardian. You choose the rules with your dog. I'm not going to tell you that your dog can't eat before you. It's silliness. It has no relation whatsoever to living with a dog or training. However, you want to have lots of rules. Why? The more rules you have, the more the dog will listen to you and mind, so he won't break the big rules, like who owns this bone. But you can decide what they are. So let's take a bed, for example. When I'm lecturing, I always do a survey of my audience to say, right, I want you to think of a dog you live with. Now, hands up if he sleeps outside. Maybe one person will put their hand up. Hands up if he sleeps in the kitchen. We've got about 3 people. Hands up if he sleeps in the living room. We've got about 10. Hands up if he sleeps in the bedroom. We've got 90 people. On his bed beside the bed. A lot of people, on the bed lots of people, in the bed lots of people. It doesn't matter if it's not a problem. However, of course, let's say the dog is snapping at you. I mean, one of the most common cases I get is a single woman who has a dog and then she gets a boyfriend. And it happens in the middle of the night, usually. The guy gets up to take a leak, can't get back in bed again. Dog's like, that's a problem. So solve it. But I wouldn't solve it at 2 a.m. when you got no clothes on and you've just taken a leak. That's not a good training scenario. I'd say, right, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, we're going to teach the dog it's okay for this guy to be on the bed. Let's get the dog's dinner. On the bed. Good dog. Lie down. Move over. Good dog. Lie down. Good dog. Off the bed. Treat, 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 treat. And so if we have a problem, no, we've got to resolve it. But having these silly rules that make the dogs and the owners' lives just downright unenjoyable, I don't get it. It has absolutely no relationship to, or no bearing on training whatsoever. And it turns to be very, very abusive. And a lot of people, I find, are forced by trainers to use quite nasty methods with their dogs, grabbing them, shaking them, rolling them over, holding them muzzled, slapping them, kicking them, shocking them, jerking them, under the guise of dog training. Well, I'm sorry, that's not the way I train a dog. I would no more do that to my kid than I would my dog. Training is about educating. And it's a human, supposedly with a bigger and smarter brain, educating a young puppy how to live in the house with us. So we don't have to bring this whole sort of adversarial nature into the training arena. You're living with the dog. He's your best friend, so treat him like your best friend, and you'll find you can train him a lot quicker, and it's a lot more fun for you and for the dog.